To the Field of 68 Best Bets show presented by BetRivers. We are the three-man weave back from our 2-day hiatus. I know you missed us out there. I missed us. I missed talking hoops with Matt and Jim on a camera on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. Got a great slate today. It's Tuesday. It's It's Champions Classic. Huge games. Finally, a really, really robust slate to talk about, fellas. I'm excited. Before I get to Jim and Matt, a reminder, BetRivers offering a nice little promo for a parlay on college basketball, 20% boost. That sounds pretty good to me. And I think this is the last day you can get merchandise at the Field of 68 store for 20% off with code CHAMPIONS. Code CHAMPIONS. That does it for the house cleaning, guys. Jim, what'd you see from, this weekend, I suppose, since we've been off for 2 days?
Kai, I got a couple takeaways here. I'll try to keep them quick.
Whoa, overachiever.
First one, Florida. Hey, you're known for your oranges, but Kai, the teams were lemons yesterday. How about that? A little sour fruit joke. South Florida, Florida State, Florida, all losing to inferior teams as bigger favorites, double-digit favorites. I believe all of them were. So that's not great. Matt, our Texas squads were as awesome as they should be. Houston and Baylor completely rolled their competition. And then lastly, one more pitch for OT insurance on unders. I should be able to bet an under minus 117 to exclude overtime. That should be allowed. Why can't I have that? I want it. I need it. 3 straight days of Austin under in overtime. You've seen them on our Action Network play. So it's brutal, fellas. Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, not good, Jim. Sorry. Kind of a weird takeaway, more of a niche takeaway, Kai. Utah State hung 96 last night on a pretty good Santa Clara team. Mr. Odom can coach out there in the mountains. Like, we should be taking note of how good this team is this year. They lost Justin Bean, but man, their offense looks awfully delectable to start this season. So you want the funk? Well, they got the funk. Taylor Funk, 22 last night, having a renaissance season after transferring over from St. Joseph's.
Yeah, takeaway. TCU, obviously top of my mind. Northwestern State beating the Horned Frogs. Wow, a team that should be competing for a top 20 place in the country this year.
But no Mike Miles, Kai. But no Mike Miles, right?
Yeah, no Mike Miles.
They're fine.
Yeah, I saw someone say they were out with 2 best players. I don't think Damian Baugh is their second best player. I'm going to just shout that one out right now. But yeah, TCU, tough start for them. I'm not hitting the panic button quite yet, guys. Still a good team, in my opinion. But that was tough. And also, today, we'll get to it, but SWAC versus Pac-12. SWAC going for the sweep today in their little home series with Prairie View A&M coming, or Washington State coming to town to Prairie View A&M. Might talk about that one later if the chat wants to. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get to the rundown, folks. Champions Classic. Let's start it off. The headliner, Kansas versus Duke. Matt, Indianapolis is the setting for this game. Duke has a brand new coach, and Coach S replacing Coach K. Duke flipped to a favorite. They were a small dog, like a +1 dog when this opened. Now -1.5 at BetRivers. What do you see?
I love Dookie, and I'm just going to say it up front.
Cut that. Let's
yeah,
get
that's
that.
not probably shouldn't start with Dookie. That.
Yes,
so that's sort of a reverse jinx engineered there. I love Duke tonight. This line's way too off, in my opinion. Are we forgetting that Bill Self's not coaching this game? Like, that matters.
That's a good point.
The same guy that made the awesome adjustments at halftime to mount the awesome comeback last year against UNC. I mean, pretty good coach. So him not being there matters to me. Mm-hmm. And I also think Duke's 2 best freshmen, Tyrese Proctor and Mark Mitchell. Sorry to those named Derek Whitehead and Derek Lively and Flip, but they're really good. Duke's just really talented. They have an upgrading coach this year. And I think the KU not having their primary head honcho matters. So give me Duke. -1.5. Best bet.
Ooh, Pop. Best bet. Off the bat.
Ooh. Yeah, you snuck in they have an upgrade at coach this year. You didn't highlight that the way it should have. I agree. Duke has a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't want to make it a big on the marquee thing. I'm trying to kind of subtly drop it into the ethos. Like, guys,
I'll say it like this, Matt. If it was Self versus K, I'd say big coaching edge Kansas. Now it's Shire versus not Self. I'll give big coaching edge to Duke. Mm-hmm. Mega impressed with Duke's defense so far this season. I think Mitchell and Grandison are like 2 perfect guys to throw at Grady Dick and Jalen Wilson. Like, they match up well physically. So I think they're going to be able to shut Kansas down a little bit. I'm with Matt here. I didn't take 1.5, but Duke feels like the side to me, Kai. I think Kansas is still figuring itself out somewhat. And I was super impressed with what Duke did on the defensive end the first 2 games.
Yeah, Duke's looked, I would say, more impressive. Neither team has really played elite competition yet, but Duke smashing Jacksonville was impressive in my eyes. The freshman superstar is obviously on display today. Grady Dick is Kansas's freshman. Matt, Flip, I don't know if you've seen his numbers, man. He's been awesome this year.
No, he's been good. The point is Duke's loaded this year. Yep. Duke's just loaded. It's such a deep team.
Flip's been awesome. Mitchell's been awesome. Athleticism, talent edge, I'll probably give it to Duke, but Jalen Wilson might be the best player on the floor. No one's really talking about him from a national scale, at least as much as maybe should. He's put up some numbers in the first 2 games. I kind of lean with Matt on this one. I'm kind of a Duke guy. I don't love -1.5. I was hoping to get them as a dog, but gosh darn, that market snuffed it out. I'm hoping to just watch a good game tonight. So lean Duke. Matt, good luck on your best bet.
Thank you. I'll need it.
Michigan State versus Kentucky is the undercard of the Champions Classic. Kentucky -7 right now at BetRivers. Sparty Jim just took the Zags to the wire on an aircraft carrier. Maybe a little bit hard to gauge from that game, but Sissoko was a positive for Michigan State, and Tyson Walker played well as well. Who do you like in this game?
I'd probably lean towards Kentucky. Just feel a little more like a finished product. And yeah, that carrier game, I have a hard time taking anything away from it. Mm-hmm. Gonzaga basically had to play through Timmy only because perimeter shooting was not an option at all. Granted, that was the case for Michigan State as well, but I don't view that as a huge strength for them outside of Walker and Hauser. So I not taking a ton away from that. Oscar's kind of a big factor here. He's supposed to play, but we don't know how much he'll play, how good he'll look. Matt, I have some questions coming off an arthroscopic knee surgery. If he's going to be able to be as explosive, as energetic, like his whole thing is motor physicality.
Yep.
Taking a little bit of that away could be a problem. So I lean towards Kentucky. I sort of like the under a little more, but I have not bet this game, and I probably won't. I'll sit it out.
Yeah, I think Oscar's huge. I think he can bully up front if he's at his best, but that's like you mentioned, that's probably the key dynamic in this game. That's really tough to put a finger on. Severe Wheeler coming off the bench last game, 27 minutes, had 11 points, 11 assists, only 2 turnovers. He looked like pretty close to his old self, and that's huge. He's the catalyst for that offense. I would expect to see him in the starting lineup tonight. All that said, I think 7's too high, Kai. I think a touchdown Sparty, who I think put their big boy pants on against Gonzaga. I don't think they fully sold me that they're like a legit team, but they can compete. I don't think they're as soft maybe as we thought up front. They're a little deeper maybe than I thought as well. So I would lean the 7, but no official play.
Yeah, Sissoko, like I said, he impressed me against Gonzaga. He's
better
than I expected. Yeah, and they do have a jumbo lineup, which might be good against a Kentucky team that's not, crazy quick in the backcourt. I say that with a little bit of an asterisk. We'll see tonight what happens. But Kentucky, the additions of Frederick and Reeves have been huge for them. It's completely unlocked their offense. Those two combined 16 for 30 from 3. The rest of the team has combined to hit 6 3-pointers. Reeves has been awesome. Frederick's been awesome.
Been insane.
It just spaces the floor for them. When Sheboy back, we'll see how effective he is. But if he was full strength, Matt, I might be leaning towards Kentucky here. But I kind of agree the spread feels a touch high. Probably lean towards the Spartans here. Next game, one that's near and dear to all 3 of our hearts. We all have connections to SLU, to St. Louis. St. Louis hosting Memphis in a very, very big game today. Matt, -3 are the Billikens, a very key game for at-large hopes. Memphis would be sitting pretty right now with a win at Vandy, a win at SLU. SLU, of course, trying to make their own at-large case, have a tough schedule coming up. This would be a big one for them. Who you got?
Feels like the all-time spot for SLU. The problem, however, is that Memphis has been off for a week, and we don't really know a lot about Memphis because they've owned Vandy, but then now we're learning Vandy might just be really bad. So I was impressed with Memphis, but then I've kind of reconsidered my thoughts on Memphis. A lot of moving parts this handicap, Jim. It's a good thing if you're a SLU backer that they kind of slept walking against Evansville. So I think you're more confident that you're going to get like a full out of the gate explosion, like a good home SLU favorite type of effort tonight. My only final concern, I should say, Perkins. Is he 100%? Hasn't looked his old self when I watched. Is. Okay. He hasn't looked as dynamite off the dribble. He seems more like a spot shooter. A slight nitpick, and I think he's so important for that offense. So just one caveat there.
Matt, I like the idea of SLU home favorite. They've been locked in on this game. I'm taking -3 as the best bet. I just think SLU is more fully formed right now. They know who they are. I think we get a little chip on Yuri Collins' shoulder with all the love that Kendrick Davis gets as like this potentially the nation's best point guard, and Collins has maybe gotten to be an afterthought in that discussion, and he shouldn't be. Memphis has a lot to figure out on the offensive end. It's like Kendrick pick and roll stuff. Are they going to play through DeAndre Williams because the offense works when they do that, but that takes away from Davis. They're really experienced, but they're not experienced together. So I'm going with SLU. I think there's a lot more continuity there. The home crowd will rise up for them. A Billiken Blizzard, Kai. I don't know if they're actually doing the whiteout Billiken Blizzard, but SLU -3 is one of my best bets.
Yeah, two of the oldest teams in the country, guys, by experience, both top 10 in the country. Not your typical Memphis Penny Hardaway team, right? They're just relying on freshmen, and I would say dumb freshmen most of the time. This is a little bit more of a poised team, but St. Louis is as well. I'm excited for the Collins Davis epic battle. I'm leaning towards SLU here. I have not taken a side officially, but I am rooting for the Billikens, full disclosure. Next game on the schedule here, San Diego State at Stanford. The Aztecs, Jim, are favored by 5. Good reason. Stanford stinks. I watched Stanford in Milwaukee. Not impressed by it. I watched them in Pacific too. I've watched 2 Stanford games this year. Frankly, that's too many. They're offensively challenged. But Jim, tell me about San Diego State. Tell me about this matchup.
Well, usually San Diego State as a road favorite or a big favorite doesn't really excite me, but they certainly have more offensive pop this year. Like we've seen it actually happen. Darian Trammell hitting some really tough late shots against BYU. Jaden Leday had 20 plus off the bench, just a bowling ball of a big man getting to the rim. He plays really aggressive. So they just have a little more offensive pop. The defense hasn't quite been up to snuff, but I think against a team like Stanford that wants to get into the paint other than Michael Jones, I think we see that come back a little bit. That said, the number, Matt, is a little too high for me, given it on the road for San Diego State. So number leans towards Stanford, but I do love San Diego State this year.
Yeah, Pat Taylor in the chat saying Stanford +5 is speaking to him. I'm with you. I think the number feels a little bit high for a road team, San Diego State, who I don't fully trust as much as you two do, but just not going to bet. I don't trust Stanford either. I really don't. And that home court is basically nothing. I've watched Stanford play at home. I just don't get any vibe that that's like a ruckus home crowd, or it's just, I don't know.
They're not.
I would not back Stanford
Tiger Woods
+5
is showing up to games. That's when you know home crowd matters for Stanford.
Yeah, the Lopez bros are not walking through that door tonight, guys. So yeah, I'm staying away.
Stanford's not scoring on San Diego State. They need to pound the ball inside. They can't do that against San Diego State, against Mensa. Spencer Jones being back is big, but Trammell, Bradley, that dynamic backcourt, that's the dominant factor here. Michael Jones, credit to him for Stanford, but Harrison Ingram, guys, is terribly overrated. So overrated. I mean, he does nothing. This guy's supposed to be a top 50 player. Not even close. He's not even a top 3 guy on his own team. So Stanford's got some stuff to figure out if they want to make the tournament. I don't think they will. I think Haas gets fired this year. Wow, really going in on Stanford here, aren't I?
I hated them at Miller Park. Just not a fan.
It's just not a good. It's not a good team. It should be a lot better. I'm not impressed by the coaching, the offensive scheme. It's not good. Under would be my lean in this game. I think it could get pretty ugly. Chat Mob Part 1. Matthew is our czar. We'll see how that goes.
Buckle up. Well, I got to throw out a question to Jim here. The very first inquiry was an over on Pacific, North Dakota. The niche of all niche takes, Jim. What are your thoughts here? I like Pacific on the side. I think the Tigers are just a different class than the Nodex.
Yeah, North Dakota didn't look great against Creighton. They were down 30 at halftime. Pacific was feisty, played up and down against Stanford. Maybe a take in the over because North Dakota doesn't guard anything, but I don't have anything on that game personally.
Hi, Harry, Louisville, -5.5. Well, first of all, if Harry, stick to Temple, stay in your lane. But since we're going to address your question, Kai, what do you just continue fading Louisville with appetizer state?
Yeah, Matt, you should know it's my best bet. It is.
It's time to reveal it. People are tired of waiting. They don't want to wait. Just give it to them. The line's going to keep crashing.
App State +5.5 is my best bet. I'm just going to keep fading Louisville, guys. The market's caught on. It has come down a bit. It opened a lot higher offshore. It got bet down and opened very small in the U.S. I think App State has a chance to win it outright. Louisville's broken.
It's a well-coached team against a team that's lost.
Exactly. Yeah. The coaching mismatch is enormous.
Yeah, don't try to catch the falling knife with Louisville right now.
There you go.
Only concern there, App State is like no size up front, but that doesn't matter against Louisville. It doesn't matter. Thank you. That's the right take. Leg Show Magazine looking at Chattanooga +12. Jim takes on the Mocs and the Fighting Dan Earls.
Yeah, like the Mocs here today. I think they're going to be a pretty good underdog. They've gotten a couple games under their belt. They do have a little continuity in the scheme, although Honor Huff isn't playing yet because of the silly suspension. I mean, he might be out for the entire year. but I don't think Ruffin is going to play for Ole Miss. That hurts their offensive upside. Yeah, Matt, I like getting double digits with the mocks.
It's down to 10. I'm not sure I endorsed it 10, but I think that was probably the right set on the opener. And Kermit's actually been pretty good as a favorite historically. So just a trend to note there. Kai asking for our approval on betting the mortgage. Bucknell against St. Peter's. I just backed St. Peter's, which was an automatic loser. Never competitive with Seton Hall in the Shaheen Holloway Bowl. What do you think here with the Bison?
Man, I got no take in this game. I really don't. If he bets his mortgage, I hope he wins. That's a risky bet. But hey,
you got a nice house too.
Go big or go home, Matt. That's what they say.
It's a big pad. That's right. That's our motto here. Well, starting today, it's our motto.
Yes.
Jim Ray Reyes, he's admitting he's a New Mexico homer, but he thinks SMU -3 is very short. And I tend to agree with him. I almost took the ponies. Didn't, but almost did.
Man, I don't know. Both those teams are kind of figuring out new identities. New Mexico actually has interior players now. SMU has an entirely new roster. But SMU's effort at Dayton was a lot better than the final score indicates. We talked about it was a late 11-0 run, or a 9 or 11-0 run that led to a fork there. Yeah, probably number would lean to SMU. I again sat on my hands on that one. Didn't have a strong take.
Danny Harold, I believe. Does X roll by 20 against Fairfield, or are they looking ahead to Indiana, Jim? Sean Miller's. I kind of think they do roll Fairfield. Xavier home favorite, usually a good thing.
Yeah, I would think so at Cintas. I don't know if he's like fully got that team on board with his style yet. Fairfield competed with Wake Forest for like 38 minutes and got an unfortunate late loss against the spread. But losing at New Hampshire, who had no one returning from last season, was alarm bells for Fairfield. That really concerned me.
Yeah. Hi, Oral Roberts playing Texas Southern on a weird back-to-back situation here, doing like this Houston Classic there. What are your thoughts? Feel too short, or you think Texas Southern has the athletes?
I think it feels a little short, -4. Oral Roberts has had a tough schedule to start. This is a team that a lot of people thought would win the Summit. They have everyone back pretty much from last year except Lufili inside. I lean towards Oral Roberts -4.
Jim, the Paris asking, can James Madison keep this up? They've won their first 2 games by, I believe, a combined 562 points. Thoughts on the Dukes today?
I don't see why you'd go against them right now. I think that team is just a juggernaut. I think Jordan Majeski said on Twitter their backups were rolling Buffalo starters in the second half. Like they're 10 deep.
Such a deep team.
Yeah, that's a scary favorite to get in front of, and Howard will play fast. So yeah.
Mark Byington. I would be he's a name if I'm a power conference school that's maybe having trouble. I would circle him on the list.
Matt, are you Mark buying stock? Byington stock?
I'm holding. I've actually been a shareholder for over a year now. Kai, last one, and back to the rundown. Joe DeSimone asking about Stonehill versus Providence. Ed Cooley's return to Stonehill. I forgot he was actually at Stonehill before. Does he take it easy, you think?
Oh, gosh.
He's not returning to Stonehill.
You said he was at Stonehill?
This is at Providence. So
it's at Providence. Oh, yeah. He's not going to. Yeah. So Stonehill comes to Providence, and Ed Cooley plays, I believe, where he used to coach. I think he used to coach at Stonehill. Is that correct?
I don't know. I have no idea. There are. There's something about these first year D1 teams, man. The market's always low on them, and it doesn't make any sense.
I like this.
They shouldn't be competitive, but they are. Stonehill, Commerce, Southern Indiana. Games they should not be winning.
Indiana, yes.
I wouldn't go against them right now. I'd probably lean towards Stonehill or just save your money and put it on a different game.
Yeah. Played and
coached. Ed Cooley played at Stonehill for 4 years. So nice. Fun facts. Back to the rundown.
Gavitt games. Little twofer here. Marquette at Purdue. Purdue's -8 right now. BetRivers. Jim Shaka. Pretty good as a dog, man. Last year, won outright against Illinois. West Virginia. At K-State. Can they do it to Purdue at Mackey Arena?
Yeah, potentially. We saw one Wisconsin team go to Mackey last year and win on a huge Johnny Davis effort. You mentioned Shaka as a dog of 7 or more in his career, so kind of getting up there in the number. 23-11 against the spread, really good. That's just Shaka is a master motivator of men, gets him to play hard. But Matt, I've been impressed with Purdue's defense so far this year. Like they're not getting taken advantage of with Edey in space. They're kind of funneling players to him and taking away the 3-point line. So I've kind of been impressed enough with Purdue to not immediately auto back Shaka as a dog, but it would probably be Marquette or nothing for me.
Yeah, it does feel big, but you're right, Jim. I think the schematic way in which Purdue is defending, like really hard on the perimeter, forcing everything, funneling into the mid-range, and Marquette's going to do the same thing to you defensively. I think who can score more efficiently inside the arc is going to be the key to this game. And I think Purdue has the much bigger advantage because they have a human giant in Zach Edey. Yes. But I think Shaka will attack that matchup with Oso on the other end too. So I guess points is where I'm talking myself into over. I don't think I've seen I think the total's been bet up pretty quickly, as most totals are with Marquette games. But that's probably my only lean in this game, over.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards Shaka with the dog theory here. Purdue's just awesome, and I kind of already fall in love with this team. Not to mention Mackey's a different animal. We've been there, we've experienced it. It's an awesome atmosphere. Their freshmen are really good. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer.
Good. Yep.
They're cash. They play beyond their years. There's no answer for Edey inside. However, I will say this for Marquette's favor: the length, the athleticism on the perimeter, they could really give Purdue's ball handlers trouble. Morton and Smith both have sky-high turnover rates right now, combined 12 turnovers in 2 games. They're going to turn the ball over. It's going to happen against Marquette's little pressure, such a long perimeter. So I think Marquette can scrap a cover here. I'm leaning towards the Eagles at +8. Next game, Northwestern at Georgetown. I apologize that this one made the rundown. Matt, this one's a round pick either way. It's the sort of game you don't feel good backing either side. If I was on Georgetown, I would hate it. If I was on Northwestern, I would hate it. What do you think?
I hate it less if I was on Northwestern. That's basically the extent of my handicap in this game. Is it should be about a pick. It is. If you really want to get involved because you're a degenerate and you're sitting at home at 5:30 and need some action before the slate actually tips at 6, I would take Northwestern. Other than that, I would pass.
I kind of lean the other way, Georgetown. I think this is kind of the game where the talent can actually play up. They're not facing an X and O wizard of a coach on the other side. They're not a big favorite where they have to be locked in against an inferior team. Big Ten team coming to town. I think we get a little bit better version of Georgetown. But again, I can't recommend them strongly. It's a Ewing coach team. Worth noting that Jay Heath just got a waiver, the transfer from Boston College. Could provide a little extra stability and intelligence in the backcourt.
Yeah, very much. The talent's there, man. Spears a cook, Mozone,
Murray is a monster.
Yeah, Murray.
It's a good team. It's talented. Ewing's just not a good coach, Matt. But Chris Collins, a road favorite. No, thank you. I have a Georgetown lean. I'm sitting it out there. Like I said,
good luck to both of you in your hypothetical bets.
Smart to sit out.
Oh, it is a lean. It is not a bet. I can guarantee you that. Next one, Dayton at UNLV. Dayton is -4 right now at BetRivers. A sneaky matchup, Jim. UNLV hasn't looked great in either game against Southern or Incarnate Word, but Dayton's still missing Malachi Smith. What do you think?
I'm kind of with Tom Sheehan in the chat here, where he says UNLV cannot hang with Dayton's bigs. There's no one to guard Deron Holmes with Isaiah Cottrell still out. I think he's going to be a huge piece for UNLV when he gets back, but he's not there yet. Matt, curious how you felt about this number. I just, in my head, was like, oh yeah, Dayton definitely better than UNLV, who's still getting things together. I saw the numbers. It was about what I made it, but I was like, that's low. I don't like that. So in my head, it just felt like a logical bet to Dayton, especially with the interior advantage, but I didn't end up wagering on it.
I'm on the Rebs here. Jim, how dare you abandoning your Las Vegas roots? Yeah, I know the matchup concerns are legitimate. I tried to put those to the side. Just for me personally, that's where I tend to go awry in my own handicapping. But Jim mentions the lack of a true rim protector, a beast inside to combat Holmes is going to be a problem for UNLV. But I just think they're so deep. They're so scrappy defensively. The way they pressure the ball should perhaps bother that younger perimeter backcourt, I guess more of a wing corpse that Dayton has. And I think at home, first road game for a youngish, not all the way young, but youngish Dayton team without their primary ball handler, that's an issue. So I'm taking the Rebs here as a short home dog.
Woka's been okay inside for UNLV. He's been serviceable inside, but if he gets in foul trouble, which he probably will against Holmes, it becomes a major problem. UNLV is still meshing a lot of new pieces. I think Dayton's more of a known commodity, and Mongolian Mike, he's filled in pretty damn well for Malachi Smith at point guard for Dayton there. I do sort of lean towards UNLV though on the number. They're no pushover at home. I respect the coach enough to sort of lean their way here.
Dayton's not young enough to go out drinking on this trip, or not old enough.
I'm hoping they do. That's part of the handicap, Jim. I give a half point to odds that Holmes is seen at Aria tables at 10:30 before.
Yeah, that'd be an angle. That's true. Vanderbilt at Temple ends our rundown here. Matt, Vanderbilt seems lost. The Memphis loss, okay, fine, but Southern Miss by double digits when you're laying over 17. Stackhouse clearly hasn't figured out the rotation yet. He played 12 guys against Southern Miss.
I know. Look at the
seems more concerned about figuring his lineup out than winning. What do you think?
Yeah, brought Mannion off the bench, Jordan Wright, Malora Brown, Liam Robbins only played 11 minutes,
Everybody.
by the way.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. That is such like we're treating the regular season as like a summer tour to Italy and playing, random teams trying to it doesn't feel right for Vandy. So I guess the number didn't feel overly off to me, Jim, but you can maybe put Vandy in the Louisville camp of either you're fading or you're passing. You're not going to bet on them at any point right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm sure Harry will say it. Temple isn't really when they're expected to win, they deliver kind of team. They're more of a back against the wall, feisty underdog. This is the Shane Dezzoni Bowl, by the way, transferred from Vanderbilt to Temple. I'm with you guys, though. The number felt pretty spot on to me. I'm not super excited to back Vandy right now. Temple off the huge Villanova emotional high. I think there could be a slight letdown. So this felt like a pretty solid stay away, Kai.
Yeah, I still think Temple's really good. They should be 2-0. They were killing Wagner like we talked about that a couple days ago. They took down Villanova. They're riding with confidence here. I lean towards the more cohesive team right now, which is definitely Temple. So lean their way. Hey, before
Jim, real quick, I like your revenge angle on. You mentioned the player. Who's playing for
Dezzoni? Shane Dezzoni. He hasn't played yet for Temple this year. Worth noting. There's
been 3 examples where like the revenge tour player goes back to old team. And that team wins out. Texas Southern, Wichita State, with Trevin Wade, or sorry, not Alcorn. Yeah. Vandy, Austin Crowley, who was recruited heavily by Vandy, I think committed there, then decommitted, went off against Vandy. So that might matter. I'd add that to your notebook. Good call, Jim.
I didn't even realize you mentioned how Temple was killing Wagner. They had a 99.5% chance to win in that game. That's absurd.
I think Temple's good. Shout out Harry R. Hey, before we get to the chat mob round 2, hit the like button, guys. 20 likes, 200 people watching. Let's hit the like button. Smash the like. Get us some recognition here.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Subscribe to the whatever show. All right. Chat mob round 2. Matthew, what do you got?
Tommy Sheehan asking about South Alabama plus 12. Kite's a big home dog hosting the in-state Big Brother Roll Damn Tide, who I love, by the way. So I'm not touching it, but it does feel pretty big.
Yeah, down to 11 at BetRivers. I do lean towards South Alabama, but that's a scary favorite to fade. And they've looked pretty dominant in their first couple games here.
Jim, Josh Garrett, a little Philly 5, Penn, Drexel, thoughts?
I don't think it's Philly 5. I think Drexel's like
Drexel's
looking in.
Yeah, Philly 5 plus 1 or something. Yeah.
I'm going back to the Penwell. It hasn't really been great. I've been on them all 3 games. They're 1-2 against the number. But I'm not super high on this version of Drexel. There's very little home value. These schools are super close. Kai, I think you said they're the 2 closest Division I schools in the country.
Drexel and Penn are literally across the street, apparently.
Yeah, so there you go. I just think Penn's better. They need to figure out their defense, though.
Hi, Matty Akers asking about a Pentagon showdown. South Dakota State and St. Bonaventure. Call it a semi-home game, as Ken Palm would describe it in his website. Who do you like here? It's been bet up really heavily. It opened like 4. It's been up to 7. Jack Bunny's laying.
Yeah, I wish I would have caught it. 7's ridiculous, I think. I love South Dakota State. I've been on them every single game, but I think 7's too high. I cannot endorse 7, Matt.
Yeah, I don't like fading Mark Schmidt, but his roster is, I'm not a fan of it. Jim, David Broom, Winthrop, 18.5 going to Auburn. We know fading home Auburn is never a fun experience, especially with a team that plays up tempo. I would say tread lightly, Dave.
Yeah, I took over, Matthew. I got a decent number on it. I think good. Winthrop's going to be happy to play a track meet. Auburn can be a pace taker because they just like to run up and down. They like to. And so I didn't touch the spread because I'm scared of home Auburn. Like you said, Broom's supposed to play. Chance Westry's supposed to debut, the top 50 recruit. So no lean on spread, but it's sort of small to the over.
And now the other end of the point spectrum, Kyrie Wilson, Cal Irvine. Should be a low scoring game. They are hosting LMU, the LA crosstown, not really rival, but whatever, foe. Game sitting at around 5. Irvine landed coming off that big win at Oregon. What do you think?
I sort of lean towards LMU. I'm usually an Irvine guy, but I don't love Irvine as it's not a big favorite, but a favorite against an LMU team that I think could be pretty good this season, pretty decent. No Damian Douglas again. He has not debuted yet for LMU this season, but I still think they can stay within the number here. 4.5 right now. Lean their way.
Yeah, I did take some 5. Buying the hook. Matty Hooks buying the half point always. Not always, but occasionally when I feel like it.
Don't buy the hook. Don't ever buy hooks.
Jim and Kai disavow. Doug asking about Eastern Michigan, the Fighting Amani Bates after a pretty impressive performance against Michigan at the Pizza Bowl. Down to 6, though, Jim. Going to Bradley. I think the smart money has sniffed out the value. Anything at the current number?
No, not really. I'd actually maybe consider Bradley here. I know they're really missing Rink Mast, the big-time interior player for them. I have this theory that Eastern Michigan got super hyped for Big Brother at Pizza, like you said, and now going to a Missouri Valley team on the road, Bates and Farrakhan might not be as engaged off the bounce, and that's kind of what they need to score. So a little bit of a lean to Bradley now. I liked Eastern Michigan when it was 9, but not going to end up taking anything.
Yeah, I want to see how Eastern Michigan responds when some adversity hits in, right? When there's, maybe they're down 15 at Bradley and Amani's not on the big bright stage and him and Noah maybe have a little headbutting. I'm just speculating. We'll see how that goes. Any last second at the buzzer mob questions I missed? Fairfield Xavier under 139. No, I disagree, Reggie. I would go over.
Matt, someone mentioned, I'll throw it back at you. Vermont USC. Can the Catamounts keep it close tonight?
Yes, they always keep it close, except when you play St. Mary's, because St. Mary's is awesome. USC is vulnerable. I think the Catamounts compete, no question.
Yeah, would agree.
Last one here, Pacific. Did we talk about Pacific? I thought the onset we did briefly.
Pacific.
Yeah,
yep.
Eileen Pacific's been bet up though.
That's
all I got. Let's recap.
All right, Matt, what was your best bet? Remind us. You have 2, don't you?
No, I just had one.
One
I
has
did have
yet
2.
to be revealed. One has yet to be revealed.
What's your other one?
I'm looking at the home and find the current number on it. First one is Duke, so everyone can now play that on their current devices for $1 million or $2, whatever your bankroll is. My second best bet.
I'm seeing 13 for it, Matt, on BetRivers.
13. Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, the Fighting Cal State Northridge's pretty pitiful opening game effort, although they did backdoor us a cover. I think catching 13 is just too many against Cal Baptist, who I was not in love with when I watched play. Should be kind of an ugly, low-pace, low-scoring game. Should play well for the dog. Going against the early money that came in pretty heavily on Cal Bap, so it's Matt v. Market. I would side with Matt for my best bet, plus 13.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. So to recap mine, I mentioned I had SLU -3, a little short home favorite taking on Memphis. I think they get a huge victory for potential at-large purposes. And then my other one, I saw there's a little whisper about it in the chat. Green Bay team total under. Someone mentioned that. I'm just taking the full game under. Green Bay and Wisconsin, 130.5 right now at BetRivers. The 2 matchups with Will Ryan going to the Kohl Center have been slogs, just disgusting games. Both went under the total by 20 plus. Green Bay had, I think, 34 and 42 points in those. So if you want to just go team total under and forget about the Badger aspect, I'm okay with that. I just think the Badger defense is familiar with what Ryan wants to do. They're really disciplined. This is going to be an ugly game, slow. So I like the under there, Kai.
I love that, Jim. I love it so much. Reminder, my best bet, App State plus 5.5 BetRivers. Jack Stone says maybe you can give out 6. I'm not saying shop around, but BetRivers plus 5.5 at App State. You know what? It's a win-win for me, Matt. Here's why. If App State doesn't cover, then people think Louisville's good, and their next 3 games are pretty brutal. And I'll
tough
take the other
schedule.
teams as well. I literally might fade Louisville the next 10 games. I'm sorry to Pat Taylor in the chat. It's not a good team. Kenny Payne is not a good coach. It's bad.
Yeah.
That concludes our show. We're coming tomorrow to you guys on Wednesday at noon Central once again. Thank you to BetRivers. Thank you to Field 68. Reminder, BetRivers 20% boost for a college basketball parlay. Check them out. Check out the Field 68 store as well. 20% off merchandise. 20% off merchandise with the code champions. Also buy the almanac. If you don't have the almanac yet, check out our Twitter at 3MW_CBB. Click on the link. It's a big preview magazine. We've been hyping it all summer. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Good luck with your bets.